Twilight's Nightmare, Chapter 29, A Walk in the Everfree. The last week had gone well. Twilight never would have thought that sharing her body would actually have so many advantages. She'd comfortably settled into bed, putting the finishing touches on the spell that she would need as Night was eating breakfast, and looking after Spike. Ever since Cadence blackmailed Night and the revelation with Luna, her relationship with the ex-Nightmare had been changing. Now it felt to Twilight as if it was more of a partnership. Finishing the spell, she closed the books that she was working on and let her aura send them on their way back to their homes in the well-filed library. She then blew on the ink of the new scroll to help it dry. Twilight stretched, enjoying the supple feeling of moving her alicorn physique. She cast her eyes to the sleeping forms of dreams beside her and smiled. She wasn't quite sure what her relationship with her would be called officially, but she knew she liked it. Leaning over, she nuzzled the mare, her first mare friend, lovingly. She was very grateful for Night letting her hide her when she accompanied Luna to see what could be found at the Temple of the Hidden Path. It helped a lot. It had taken hours in Dream's loving embrace for her to finally calm down after only seeing the entrance. A small part of her wanted a giggle, another part, one that resonated with Nova, let out a gentle purr. Twilight felt wonderful. An ever so small seed of doubt annoyingly flitted across her mind. Did she love dreams? She thought so, but she was so new to all of this. How could she be sure? Nova being able to overpower her emotions and even thoughts made everything all the more complex. Twilight breathed in Dream's sense, enjoying how much at peace the one simple thing could make her feel. The worries about how and why she left her mare friend were fading away. She thought back to when she first met Dreams. It felt so long ago, but in fact it was less than 2 weeks. Her entire life, her goals, and even her knowledge of who she was had all changed drastically in just that short time. Twilight kissed Dreams, who started slightly, returning the kiss.
You're insatiable,
Dreams lightheartedly complained, blinking the sleep from her perfect eyes, and Twilight smirked.
Oh, you know you love it.
The confidence that Nova lent her was almost as intoxicating as the thoughts of what she could do to Dreams. She let her hooves start to wander, exploring the body that had become so familiar to her. Twilight knew that Celeste would be extremely disappointed in her student for letting her self-control go like this. After all, she had chosen to deliberately craft her tool completely without such desires. Dreams' silver aura held her still, stopping Twilight's advances.
My star, as much as I would very much want you to continue, there are things that you have to do today.
Twilight smiled sheepishly, considering a few things that she might say, then just sighed. Dreams did have a point, after all.
Now you trot off and set your plan in motion. I can't wait to see how Luna will react.
Dreams said with a smile.
One more kiss?
Twilight asked, trailing her wingtip suggestively along Dreams' body. Something changed in her mare friend's eyes.
Bucket.
Dream said in defeat, as she rolled over, pinning Twilight to the bed and needfully wrapping perfect wings around her, pulling her into a passionate kiss. An hour later than intended, Twilight left her bedroom in the Golden Oaks, a deep feeling of contentment filling her from the tip of her horn to the end of her tail. Despite everything, she was happy. It was a marvel how easy she had found it to at least mostly move past what had happened to her. Nearly dying on an altar just did not seem like that big of a deal currently. Was she in denial? Probably. Did she care at the moment? No. She navigated her way to the central section. Somehow she always knew which way to turn. It did make a kind of sense. All of this was her mind after all. She couldn't keep a grin off of her face at the memory of being carried into Dreams' aura and almost rammed headfirst into some walls. Twilight led a hoof trail across the wooden wall at one such location as she passed it. This place, her library. It felt like her true home. She would bring the girls here. Perhaps they could even have a sleepover. Looking over the railing down into the central section, she decided to teleport instead of use her wings or taking the stairs. Her body just felt too relaxed to put the needed effort in. Blinking into existence in the center of the ground floor, she trotted over to the newest doorway.
Morning, Gray,
she said, waving a wing in greeting. Opening the rich dark wood door, she passed through it, ending up on what Twilight had decided to call her doorstep. Her hoof falls sounded harsher as she stepped from the homely wood of her library to the obsidian plain with the stormy sky. Like last time she was here, the real physical world was visible below, and what should have been the reflection within the floor. She hadly considered if this was Night's mental space or just how the interface with her physical body looked, because Night was currently the true master of it. She would need to do more studying to find out. Shaking her head and putting that aside for now, she got Night's attention.
Morning, Night,
she said, watching her body now cleaning the dishes, with Spike happily running off, holding a claw full of gems.
Good morning, Twilight.
Night responded, directing some of her attention to the mental space, her preferred Batwing Twilight form manifesting next to Twilight.
You're late,
she said with a knowing smile. Twilight tried to fight off a blush, but was fairly sure that she failed.
Sorry,
she said out of politeness, but didn't really feel it. Night looked at her with a jealous edge to her expression.
Hey, don't be like that,
Twilight said, pulling Night into a hug with her aura. The surprised Night froze for a moment. Then she relaxed against Twilight, returning the embrace with her membraned wings. Twilight could feel Nova rumbling with interest, but she mentally pushed those thoughts away. She had things to do today, and she was not in that sort of relationship with Night, at least not yet.
Am I even considering this?
She thought in disbelief. To try and distract herself, she started a detailed mental list on the pros and cons of hugging a pony with astral wings. She failed. The whole implications of being an alicorn, having fragments, and Luna took over her line of thought. She knew what the law said about fragments and the host counting as one individual legally, so that meant they were all marrying Luna. Twilight wasn't sure how she felt about that. Each fragment, each of her newly discovered family and friends were their own ponies, even if they had the mild disadvantage of not having their own bodies.
How can alicorns have normal relationships when you can't be sure who's looking out from their eyes? Is this why Celestia didn't tell Cadence?
Thinking about it, Twilight could say that she didn't have her own body at the moment, as Night had that contractual claim to it, but Twilight lifted a hoof and rubbed along her neck, where she knew Night's bindings were on her, even if she couldn't see it currently. At the moment, it felt light. She was only really bound to not act against Night. Night's manifestation faded into shadows, all of her attention now back to the physical world.
I know you were there, watching.
Night spoke to a particularly deep shadow.
We are arranging a surprise for Luna. A pleasant surprise. I would ask you and your kin to hold the secret. You may tell Luna that her betrothed is preparing a surprise for her, if you must. But pass on my request that she does nothing to investigate it, or I will be upset. As you wish, Princess.
A whisper-quiet voice came from the shadow.
How long have you known that they were there?
Twilight mentally asked.
They have been there since Luna accepted Star as her own. Oh.
Twilight answered, thinking that she needed to pay more attention. Night looked into the reflective surface of the ceiling. To Twilight, it looked like Night was looking straight into her eyes out of the image in the obsidian floor of the midscape.
As this is your plan, you should play your part in arranging it,
Night said. Tendrils of shadows gently grabbed Twilight. She found herself feeling conflicted. She was holding back a mix of panic about what she feared that they could do and a surge of excitement from Nova about what she hoped that they could be used for. She wondered if she could invent a spell that would conjure cold water over Nova. There would be plenty of times where it would be either inappropriate or undesirable to be driven by Nova's whims. She had apparently managed to throw things behind Gray's seal when she didn't want to remember them, so how much harder could it be to throw cold water past Nova's seal? The tendrils pulled her through the floor. The sensation of a cool and viscous liquid pressed into her coat as she sank, making her shudder. A moment later, she was sharing the flesh of her body with Night. She lifted her physical hoof in front of her face. She knew Night couldn't stop her at any point that she wished, she was just borrowing the body. But the level of trust Night was showing her brought a bright smile to their face. She trotted in place for a moment, noticing the small differences between her mental body and her physical one. Here she was a little taller and felt stronger. For the first time since the temple, she actually took the time to really look over her form. She stretched, studying each muscle, marveling at how much healthier she looked compared to her mental self. Twilight was moving her own body again. She could feel Night with her, sharing all of her senses, stopping her from walking into things whenever she was distracted. Honestly, she was finding it hard to remember how she coped by herself inside of her own head. Twilight headed for the front door of her home, or second home. Her library felt more like a home than the Crystal Castle ever did. She lit her horn and opened the door, stepping out into the sunlit morning. Ponyville seemed normal. It was strange, after everything that had happened, for it to be unchanged. She knew it was silly, but that's just how she felt. It felt wrong that the world had just continued on despite all the terrible things that had happened to her.
Stop being so melodramatic.
Night berated Twilight.
Okay.
Twilight replied hastily. She began walking, noticing the many eyes on her. Nova stirred inside her with a low, pleased rumble. Twilight let her eyes sweep over the ponies, watching her. She could feel her stride lengthening, her body changing position as she almost floated along the ground, her wings slightly spread, horn held high. Twilight thought about how she was moving and wanted to blush, but Night wouldn't let her.
You are a beautiful mare. Others can see that. Why hide it?
Night chided affectionately.
Because Nova's browsing the ponies of Ponyville like Pinkie Pie at a candy store?
Twilight embarrassingly whined. Twilight could feel her face pull into a smile as a faint laugh escaped her.
Oh, was that such a bad thing?
Night asked. Twilight let her eyes sweep over the crowd. Most were just happy to see her out and about, so she waved and smiled at them. Some, though, had a look of desire, a look of hunger, which her little display was feeding. She caught herself before she smiled invitingly at them. It did feel nice to be wanted, but between Dreams and Luna, she was unsure if she should even be looking at other ponies. The slightly annoyed feeling bubbled up inside from Nova, and it was all the evidence Twilight needed to know that she disagreed. Twilight bristled.
You won't be happy until you get a chance at every pony, will you?
Twilight thought at Nova.
Relax, my host,
Night commanded. Twilight felt the concern and worry start to lift from her. She let herself smile back to some of the ponies that showed interest in her. Not enough to invite anything, just enough to show that she appreciated their interest in her. Once or twice she might have given the impression that she might be interested later, but she was unsure. She felt a giggle wanting to escape her. She felt so out of place, but it was nice to be wanted, to be desired.
Knight, what did you do to me? Simply told you to relax.
Knight said playfully.
That does not work.
Twilight half-heartedly protested, and she was finding it rather hard to be annoyed.
Very well. I'm using my emotions to influence you, like how you can send your emotions to me. I can send mine to you, and in this case I'm sending you a sense of calm to help you think straight and enjoy yourself more. How could you do that to me?
Twilight demanded, trying to feel outraged and failing.
Easily. You've been doing it to me since we entered our pact. You almost drowned me last time when you went science mad. So turnabout is fair play, and even this is for your own good.
Twilight huffed and was surprised to notice that Knight had let it carry over to their body. A few ponies gave her a strange look. She looked sheepish and waved off their concerns. Twilight felt her head snap around, focusing on a black-coated elegant unicorn mare with a vibrant green mane. She had no choice but to take in her appearance as Knight let her eyes wander over the mare.
Oh no, don't tell me you're starting to act like Nova.
Twilight said indignantly.
No, but there's something about her. I can almost feel her desire for us, and there's something familiar about her.
Twilight would have face-hooved if Knight had not walked them over to the mare. The mare's eyes widened for a moment before a pleased and welcome smile shaped itself on her beautiful face.
Not many ponies have gazes intense enough that I can feel it from the other side of the street. Some pony would have thought that you'd be interested in me.
Knight playfully said, ending with a hint of seduction. The mare's smile grew.
Well, I'm Rashade, and it's my pleasure to meet you, princess.
She lowered her voice to a whisper.
And I can be yours if you want. You're kidding me, right?
Twilight commented. She added an invisible sound barrier, so she didn't have to worry too much about what other ponies might think.
And if I do want?
Knight purred. She could feel her being amused with Twilight's exasperation.
I'm staying in room 12 in the inn.
Knight leaned closer, inhaling her scent.
Then I might see you later,
she whispered, before moving away from Emerald, letting her tail caress along her flank.
Did you have to do that?
Twilight asked.
No, but I wanted to.
Knight responded.
Are you actually going to take her up on her offer? Shall we move along with your plan?
Knight dodged the question.
After you answer my question,
Twilight replied. She most certainly wasn't going to let Knight off that easy. Knight let out a happy little laugh.
I think I might.
Just the thought of what her friends would think filled her heart with dread.
You can't! What will the ponies think?
Knight shrugged their wings.
Then I will ensure that she stays silent.
Twilight panicked, thinking of Knight taking advantage of and then killing the poor mare.
Oh, don't be such a fool. I was merely going to get her to promise not to reveal anything and be discreet about my arrival. Oh.
Was Twilight's only response. She felt a little silly for overreacting, and just a little bad for judging Knight so harshly.
Now shall we be about it? We are burning the damnable daylight.
Man, they really don't hide their lust, do they? They are so damn open about it. But if you're loud and proud about it, hey, more props to you. Anyways, let's get on to our proud donators. Top donators Peter Coulthard, J Tin Man, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. Zar630, Strix, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, Crazy Claire 557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyre, Daspo, Delta Omega, Jack Hadge, RuneScythe 9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Prickett, Hansa Norman, Stephen Bingham, Line God 12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hut Zaza, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.